Do you ever wonder what's going on inside your walls, where you're losing heat in the winter, or if there's something weird with your outlets, or if you ever want to know where a heat source is? So let's go over this mini thermal camera. I'm gonna go over the key features, show you a quick demo of how this thing works, and then talk about who this is actually for, all to help you make a better informed buying decision. So this is a mini thermal imaging camera. It's a standalone pocket-sized device that shows you heat signatures in real time. So this has an 80 by 60 infrared sensor, a touch screen on it, and it runs on a built-in rechargeable battery. So no app required, you just power it on and start using it. So let me show you what we're working with here. Okay, so let's do an unboxing of the mini thermal camera here. Okay, so we have the instructions, charging, power on, and the switch, and the capture, and the photos. And we'll cover this. Then we have a nice little case, really hard case as well, so it'll protect the mini thermal camera. All right, nice little cloth. And we have our USB-A to USB-C cable, a little lanyard included, and then in this little mesh pouch, we have the actual device. So it's a really sleek looking device. Feels really high quality too, nice weight to it. Doesn't feel cheap. Yeah, this is really cool. Okay, cleaning cloth, and that is it. So you have all the essentials. Of course, the thermal camera, little cloth, instructions, case, cable, and lanyard. Okay, so right off the bat, this thing is tiny. We're talking about 1.77 by 1.48 inches, and it weighs around 1.4 ounces. So barely bigger than a keychain. You can see it in the palm of my hand, really small. Even compare it to my Apple Watch here, it's pretty comparable. This is thicker, but as far as the size goes, it's pretty similar. The Apple Watch Ultra. I mean, so that could be a Apple Watch. So of course this actually fits in your pocket, just how small it is. And the build quality is really solid for something this small. Like this feels like a premium device. We've got the power button on the top. We have the USB-C charger right here. This lights up when it's charging. And this is also where you connect it to your computer so you can get the images that you take with this device. And of course the front, we have the thermal camera and the normal camera right here. So it's really straightforward. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn it on. Just long press the power button and it'll instantly turn on. Right, so there we can see my laptop right in front. So the thermal sensor is an 80 by 60 IR resolution with a 9 Hertz refresh rate. So what that means is you're getting 4,800 thermal pixels updating about 9 times per second. Now for a pocket thermal camera, that's actually pretty decent. It's not gonna compete with professional grade thermal cameras. Those are thousands of dollars, but for checking temperature differences around your home, this absolutely works. So one thing to keep in mind, the refresh rate is low. It's low enough that you'll want to move slowly when scanning. If you wave it around too fast, the image just is too laggy. You can see as I move it, it's not completely smooth because of that refresh rate. And we move it too fast, it's just too laggy. So just take your time and you'll get good results with this. And we can also see my computer screen right there. And we'll go over different examples, not just in front of my desk, so you can see how this works and see what you could use it for. So the temperature range on this spans from 14 degrees Fahrenheit to 284 degrees Fahrenheit, plus or minus 9 degrees Fahrenheit accuracy. So you can use this for checking things like HVAC vents, electrical outlets, window drafts, basically anything in that everyday diagnostic range. And what I found is that this is really good for seeing temperature deltas, like where one area is warmer or cooler than another. So I wouldn't rely on this for the exact precise temperature reading, but for spotting differences, it does a really good job. This is probably my favorite thing about it. At 1.4 ounces and barely bigger than a keychain, you can actually carry this around in your pocket or tool bag. You can use the included case as well, and it easily just fits in. There's no app required. You just press one button, power it on, and the touchscreen responsive enough that anyone can use it. Really simple. Okay, so let's go over how to use this device. So this has several different color palettes you can choose from, and these don't change the actual measurements. They just change how the temperature data is displayed. So let me show you what each one does. So this is where we use the touchscreen. Okay, so we have our traditional color palette, and if we swipe left, tilt this up, we can see that the MacBook is now darker, and that's the heat source, the dark, and light is cooler, and we can invert that. Swiping left again, so there the hotter source is lighter, and the darker source is cooler. And we go to left again, and this is the iron bow, sometimes called lava style. This uses dark blues for colder areas and goes through reds and yellows up to white for the hottest spots, like molten metal. So this is the one that really pops on camera because the contrast between the hot and cold is so dramatic. I'm trying to angle it up here so you can see it's getting whiter up there in the corner. Okay, and then we go over again. Okay, and then we can go into this kind of rainbow mode, where it's more of the color spectrum. Okay, and then we have this other mode where it's having the red colors for the hotter elements. Okay, and then we have this green mode, where bright green pops up for the lighter, or for the hotter elements, things that we're pointing at. Okay, and then we have this red mode, red for the hot elements. And then we have this kind of rainbow mode, a lot of different colors. We can see lava mode, another kind of rainbow-ish mode, with the green being the hottest elements and purple for cool. And this kind of orange yellowish tint one for the hotter elements. So it really just depends on what you want to use. So overall, the warm palettes can look more natural when you're pointing, at people or pets. And like the blue-green one, it's best when you're trying to see really small temperature differences, because each tiny change shows up has a different color. And for example, like the rainbow mode that has more colors, this one's best when you're trying to see really small temperature differences, because each tiny change shows up as a different color. And so it's best to just experiment with the different modes. And of course, we can see the center temperature, the max temperature, and the min temperature at the top left. Okay, and then we can turn off the thermal imaging. We're just swiping up, and then we just have the normal camera, and then swipe down, go back to the thermal imaging camera. And then one other thing that we have is the snapshot. So if we just go ahead and press the power button once, taking a snapshot with the camera, and we can either trash it or we could save it. So this saves onto the device, and then we can connect it to our Windows computer. Currently, we cannot use this device on Mac, so you will need a Windows computer if you want to be able to pull the images onto your computer. I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker though. What you could do is you could just take a snapshot with your phone of the actual screen if you wanted the actual imaging. So a quick little hack there. Okay, so let me show you how this works in practice. All right, so let's have a look at the window through the thermal imager. So we have our light right here, obviously the heat source. Okay, so we're by a window, so we can check this. So wherever you're pointing the thermal imager, you need to make sure that you are close. So you don't want to be too far away. So think, 4 feet to 10 feet max. That way you can get the best reading possible. Here we can see, here's the light. So you can inspect your windows. We look right now, so we have our window sill. Let's go ahead and point this at the bottom right here, and then go ahead and slowly move up. We can see that when it hits the window, it's blue, so it's cooler. So we can see where the heat is. Then you can expect the door. Again, looking for any heat escaping. And then we're looking at the window here. We can pull this up, and then we can see me, and then we can see it start lighting up. So this works really well. Again, just remember to make slow movements, because it will lag a little bit because of the refresh rate. Then you can check out my laptop right here. You can see that it's off and the heat source isn't showing. Of course, we saw that my other computer was on and it was generating heat. Okay, and then we have our vent right here, and it's blowing out heat right now. See, it's completely lighting up. So you can just see how far away we are from the vent. So center is 31 degrees. Let's go back up front. See what it says there. So still around 31. Goes between 29 and 32. 33 there. I'm sure if we go even closer, 34, 35 range. Of course, we can turn on the flame. See the fire. Looks really cool through the thermal imager. See all the colors with it. Switch to a different color palette and see the changes of the flame. Here's like the orange one. You see everything around it is really dark. Then we have this like green, blue one with some red, yellow in there. And then the grayscale one. And you got the red tint for the heat source. And the green tint. Okay, so what do I like about this? So first, the size. It actually fits in your pocket. Most thermal cameras are, bulky accessories, and this one is just grab and go. Second, there's no app required. So one button, you're up and running, really easy to use. And then overall, the image quality is solid for checking temperature differences around the house. Again, it's not gonna be your super expensive thermal imager, but this one actually does work well. So the one thing that can be improved about this, these saved photos can only be transferred to Windows computers. So if you're on a Mac, you won't be able to pull the images off. So that's kind of annoying if you're in the Apple ecosystem. Also keep in mind, this is for temperature deltas, not precision measurements. So don't expect lab grade accuracy here. So this is great for homeowners, checking for drafts and insulation issues. You might want to find where you're losing heat before winter hits, or figure out why one room is always colder than the others. And this gives you a quick visual of exactly where the cold is coming in, windows, doors, walls, without calling anyone and having to spend more money. This is great for DIY home maintenance types. You're already the person who checks things yourself. You just need the right tool, and the pocket size means it's always ready to grab, and seeing temperature differences instantly tells you where the problem exactly is. Also, if you really just like gadgets, this is something that is fun to play with as well. And it's pretty entertaining just to move this around the house and just see the different readings and the imaging of the heat around your house. So you shouldn't get this if you need precision measurements. Again, it's not lab grade accuracy. It's not for Mac users, but if you don't need to save the images on your computer, it's not a problem. So in my opinion, this is definitely a cool little gadget that is worth checking out if you want an affordable entry into thermal imaging.